red carpet at Hotel Sofitel in Pasay City is ready to welcome aspiring candidates for the 2022 polls.
We're pretty confident, no, that we're going to be ready for first thing tomorrow. I would say we're about 90% ready.
To get here, a politician and his team of 3 must go through one-way traffic at the CCP complex. Access is limited to aspirants, their companions, COMELEC officials, and the media. A negative antigen test is required upon entry, which may be done in private laboratories or in swab tents at the hotel. The filing section is divided into 3 areas. One for presidential and vice presidential bets, the next for senators, and the last for party list groups. These seats behind me serve as a waiting area and marker for physical distancing. Security is tight, with 3,000 police and military personnel deployed in and around Sofitel.
Actually, yung mga magrarally, legally speaking, bawal po yan. Kasi nasa alert level 4 pa po tayo. We will just exercise maximum tolerance.
The area surrounding the hotel will be a no-fly and no-fishing zone beginning Friday until midnight of October 9th. The police also recommended the suspension of permit to carry firearms for civilians to limit threats. Simulation activities were done in case of threats. COMELEC and police personnel say accommodations will be given in case President Rodrigo Duterte or Vice President Leni Robredo will personally file their COCs. Their security detail will not be counted against the limit of 3 companions. Marshals will be deployed to enforce health protocols, including 1-meter distance. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Former Senator Jinggoy Estrada has officially announced he will be seeking a return to the Senate in the 2022 elections. Estrada served 2 terms as senator from 2004 to 2016, the last 2 years of which were spent in jail because of plunder charges in connection with a multi-billion peso pork barrel scam. He was released on bail in 2017, but his plunder case remains pending. Jinggoy's half-brother, former Senator J.B. Ejercito, also earlier confirmed he will be running for senator again next year. Now, both vied for a seat in 2019, like we said, but failed to make it to the top 12. Now let's get up close with former Senator Jinggoy Estrada himself. Good evening, Senator Jinggoy, and welcome to Newsnight and to Up Close. Alam niyo po, 2 weeks ago lang, andito po yung kapatid niyo, si JV.
Yeah, I heard that he's also running for the Senate, and I saw on Facebook that already declared that he was interested also in running for the Senate.
Okay, so interesting. The terminology you use, you heard he was running for the Senate, and that you read in his Facebook post, for example. So hindi po kayo talaga dalawa nag-uusap about this, no? About the plans for 2022.
Well, I must admit that we talked last month, and face to face, yeah. And he was seriously considering running first here in San Juan, and he told me to give him a week to decide. And after which, after 1 week, through a mutual friend, our mutual friend called me up and informed me that he's going to run for the Senate again.
He wanted to run in San Juan for what? For mayor or for Congress?
Well, he was considering running for a seat in Congress here in San Juan. But unfortunately, after a week, he informed one of his friends, some mutual friends, that he changed his mind and he was running for the Senate.
Interesting also, Senator Jinggoy, you say that you met face-to-face. Was this a meeting that you planned, you asked to see each other, or was this an accidental meeting when you had to get together, I guess, to talk about your dad, no?
Well, it was a planned meeting organized by a mutual friend, actually. And the meeting was held here in San Juan.
I see. Okay. Well, well, speaking of your brother, the last time both you and JV ran for the Senate in 2019, like we already said in the introduction, medyo laglag kayong dalawa eh. Nag-number 13 si JV, nag-number 15 po kayo. Who's to say that will not happen again?
Well, I hope that won't happen again. I'm hoping and praying that won't happen again. Ang my appeal only to JV, wag nang magsisiraan, wag nang magpapayawan. Let's just concentrate on what we can do for our country. I-promote natin yung sarili natin advocacy sa public, and let the people decide. Ako naman, as an older brother, ako naman, I also want him to win, and I also want myself to win also, para mas marami kami matulungan.
Okay. In 2019, the other problem, Senator Jinggoy, of course, was, at napansin to ng lahat, para bang the Estrada family was spread too thin because you had your father running for mayor in Manila, Jerica running in San Juan, and then, both you and JV running for the Senate. Para bang masyadong, masyadong kalat eh. You were all over the place. And therefore, you had San Juan as your bailiwick or baluarte. You had Manila in a way as baluarte ng tatay po ninyo in a manner of speaking. And then there were 4 of you running and nawala lahat.
Yes, I must admit that during the last elections in 2019, 3 of us, actually 4 of us, no, 5 of us were running at the same time, no? My daughter Janela ran for mayor here in San Juan. My dad was running also for mayor in Manila. Jerica, my other sister, was also running for councilor in Manila. And JB was also running for the Senate. Kaya talagang medyo I had to attend also to the needs of my daughter here in San Juan, and also to my father. I also had to support him. And I cannot do all the things at the same time because I was also campaigning for myself in the provinces. So medyo na out of focus talaga. Now that I will be running all alone, so siguro I can focus myself.
Oh. PMP, of course, is your father's party. In 2019, medyo involved pa siya sa usapan ng pamilya as to who would run where and saan mapupunta yung suporta, etc. But itong 2022 elections, itong pagtakbo ninyo ni JV, did you consult your father or he has no more say sa mga plano ninyo ni JV dahil, well, matatanda na kayo, you're both adults, you can make decisions for yourselves?
Pia, you're coming in garbled. I really can't understand the question. You're coming in real garbled.
Okay, sorry. Is your father involved in this decision-making process ninyong dalawa ni JV para kayo dalawa tatakbo
as a
ng
father,
2022?
I have already informed my father about my intentions of running for the Senate. And I also informed my father that Senator JV has also is interested in running also for the Senate. And sabi niya sa akin, if I will choose between the two of you, pag pinaboran niya ako, syempre sasabihin ni Senator JV na, mas mahal ng dati ko si Jinggoy. Pagka pinaboran naman niya si JV, sasabihin ko naman, mas mahal ng dati ko si JV. So ayaw niya na makialam. We're both, sabi niya, matatanda na kayo, you can decide on your own. Basta ako, as a father, I am here to support both of you.
Okay. I have a few other questions, Senator Jinggoy, that I wanted to tackle with you. And then, like 1 or 2 questions, and we just need to go to a break, then we'll get back to it now. But first, this question, because we have this pandemic, and there is a lot of criticism, a lot of observations about the way the government has handled, or the government response to, or the government's pandemic response. So, if you were to win in 2022 and you would go back to the Senate, how would you manage, or how would you want the health crisis managed differently? Well,
first of all, we're, as a senator, as a Senator, we're only here to legislate laws. We're only here to pass laws. Okay. What I want to happen is that right now, especially during the time of pandemic, my advocacy, even before I entered the Senate in 2004 and when I was re-elected in 2010, I chaired the Committee on Labor, and one of my advocacies was to have jobs or create jobs for our people, especially the masses. Now, how can you do that at this time of pandemic? It is hard. It is really very, very hard to do it in times of this crisis. Now, what I feel is that the private sector, the private sector must be involved in helping our government. Kasi itong mga pribadong sektor, ito yung mga nakakaalam sa mga negosyo. They have the knowledge, they have the capacity to engage in businesses. So, dapat tulungan nila yung ating gobyerno para makapag-generate or makapag-create ng mga trabaho para sa ating mga kababayan.
All right. Senator Jinggoy, we're going to go to a quick break and then we'll get back to this interview with you. Also, when we return on Newsnight, apart from that continuation of the interview with Senator Jinggoy Estrada, Coronation Night drawing closer and closer for the next Miss Universe Philippines and 2 new title holders. And music fans finally getting to watch the newly dropped cosmic collaboration of 2 famous groups. Details after the break. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. You're still watching this up-close segment with former Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Senator Jinggoy, very quickly, I wanted to ask you, will you adopt an ironclad, no-nonsense drug policy? Or another way to say this is, did the drug war solve the drug problem? And is that the same thing you want to see in the next administration?
What is your first question, Pia? It's really garbled. What is your first question?
Garbled ba? Will you adopt an ironclad, no-nonsense drug policy in the same way that we had the drug war of the Duterte administration?
So what is your question?
Will you adopt the same kind of ironclad, no-nonsense drug policy?
Maybe on a different approach, Pia. Hindi naman yun talagang merong killing stone sa kabila, may killing sa kabila. Hindi naman siguro natin gagawin yan.
Okay. Sige, ito naman, Senator Jinggoy, mga answerable by yes or no lang. So very quickly, first, do you favor easier public access for SAL-Ns of the President, Vice President, and lawmakers? Yes or no?
If you can have access to the SAL-N, excuse me?
Yes. Yes. SAL-N ng President, VP, lawmakers.
The SAL-N, that is a public document. So that is a public document, so it can be scrutinized by everybody.
Okay, so the
When I
answer
was
is
a
yes.
senator, my SAL-N
This
was
next question.
open. Excuse me?
Okay, yes or no lang ang sagot, Senator Jinggoy. Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution? Yes or no?
Foreign ownership? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you favor the reimposition of the death penalty for drug-related cases? Yes or no?
Yes.
Should the sitting president be allowed to run for vice president? And we ask this question because President Duterte is supposed to be running for VP. Yes or no?
If there is no prohibition in the Constitution, who am I? Yes, of course. There is no prohibition in the Constitution that prohibits
Okay.
the president to run for vice president.
Okay, and yes or no, do you favor the resumption of peace talks with communist rebels?
Do I? Excuse me?
Do you favor the resumption of peace talks with communist rebels?
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Okay. And my final question, Senator Jinggoy, because we've run out of time, who will your presidential candidate be? Sino kaya? Is it going to be, well, of course, depende no, kung tatakbo talaga sila. Sara, Bongbong, Isko, Manny, Grace, Lenny, Ping, Alan, etc. I'm reading from the list of the surveys that have come out very recently.
You're asking me who is my presidential candidate?
Candidate, yes.
Well, I'll just reserve my answer.
Senator Jinggoy Estrada, thank you very much for joining us here on Up Close on Newsnight. Salamat po, sir. One of the biggest pageant stages in the country is set, and we're very close to finding out the next woman who's going to wear the Miss Universe Philippines crown. Coronation night will begin at 7 p.m. Later, that's in about 15 minutes from now, at Panglao, Bohol, with a physical audience limited to 100. That will be available for paid streaming on ktx.ph. Out of 28 candidates, one will represent the country in Israel for the international competition in December. But this year, there are more chances of winning among the delegates. The pageant organizer announced that contestants can claim 2 new crowns, Miss Universe Philippines Tourism and Miss Universe Philippines Charity. Miss Universe Philippines Tourism is expected to step in if the main title holder cannot fulfill her duties. And on Instagram, the reigning queen bids farewell to the throne. Miss Universe Philippines 2020, Rabia Mateo, posted a message of gratitude to the nation yesterday. And before we go, Coldplay and BTS took fans to another world in their newly released music video for My Universe. The outer space-themed production featured the two banding together with an alien group to make music in a galaxy where it is forbidden, with a concluding message that read, "We are all one in the universe." The upbeat music video reflects unity among these two bands that come from different nations.
Because we come from different sides. You are my universe, and I just want to put you first.
BTS Army and Coldplay supporters alike flocked to watch the much-awaited production, which has gained over 7 million views in less than 24 hours. 86 more days to go before Christmas Day, and that is it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again at 7 for News.ph. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DXKT Davao, member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
COVID-19 cases are rising again, and we are seeing the highest number of infections since the pandemic began. And now that more of us are getting vaccinated, we want to talk about how they work. How can we be protected against the new variant? When are booster shots needed? And why we should not let our guards down? I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Since the first outbreak of the coronavirus in 2019, experts were working tirelessly to come up with vaccines to combat it. And each of them went through rigorous testing to ensure their quality, safety, and efficacy. Today, There are 9 COVID-19 vaccines approved for use in the country. Let's welcome our guests for today. With us is Dr. Mark Edsel Ayes. He's the Clinical Genomics Laboratory Head at the Philippine Genome Center. We're also joined by Dr. Adrian Buensolido. He's the chairman of the Infection Prevention and Control Committee of the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. I'll start first with Dr. Adrian. We often hear of efficacy numbers, but what do they actually mean?
Efficacy just means how good a vaccine is at preventing disease. For example, in COVID, uniformly, all our vaccines are very good or efficacious, at preventing severe and critical disease.
So I'd like to ask Dr. Ed, in general, the higher the efficacy rate, the better a vaccine is. But is that still true? Does that still hold true with all the variants that are here today?
Efficacy, as Dr. Buensolido mentioned, that's what you see in the clinical trials. And clinical trials are designed in such a way that you eliminate biases or yung mga tinatawag na observations that can actually cloud your judgment, yung can make your conclusion a bit wrong. So in clinical trials, you have very selected populations. And when you say 95% efficacious, that just means that in that population you observed, you were able to lower the incidence of the disease that you're trying to prevent by as much as 95%.
What is basically the difference between efficacy rates and effectiveness of a vaccine?
Efficacy is what we do in the trials. So that's sort of like the kumbaga before your pre-test, no, bago na lahat. Kasi syempre, gusto mo bago mo isubok yung dapat tested na. Effectiveness is now what's going on, no, in real life, yung practical application basically. So that will be usually it's a bit lower than the efficacy as seen in clinical trials. The World Health Organization recommends at least an efficacy of 50% before it can be deployed in populations. And for this reason, all of the current vaccines, they're well above the 50% recommended. And as far as the current data shows, they're performing very well naman at preventing severe disease.
Let's talk about how these numbers are affected by the more aggressive Delta variant. Why are we having this sort of situation right now in our country when a lot of people are getting vaccinated and such, but we're still seeing high numbers of infectiveness, hospitalization, and everything? Why is that happening?
Now you might wonder, we're getting vaccinated. Unfortunately, this outbreak is occurring at the same time that we are trying to vaccinate our populations. So, it's very tempting to make that conclusion na we're vaccinating pero ang dami pa ring nahahawa. But you have to put it into context. When the Delta variant started entering and there were many cases being detected, we had only just breached 10% of our population that had been fully vaccinated. So to blame the infections on vaccines that are not working is actually missing the point. We have still to vaccinate a large number of people in order for it to see the effects of it protecting the people.
Dr. Adrian, paliwanag natin ito na mabuti. Bakit hindi effective kapag isang dose lang at dapat kumpletuhin?
Ang bakuna kasi, it trains our immune system. It allows our soldiers, to recognize the virus before the body even is encountering the virus, So that when it finally encounters, hopefully not, but finally when it encounters the virus, in real life, the soldiers will be able to recognize the virus and attack it early on, and hopefully prevent a disease from happening or from occurring.
So why is the second dose administered almost at sometimes a month, sometimes even longer after the first one is given? What can you say to those people? How can we encourage them to complete those doses?
We just have to tell people that one dose is not enough. We have to understand that the design of these vaccines is you get the maximum protection from it if you get the 2 doses.
Dr. Adrian, how about the side effects? How about a lot of people are worried they don't want to get the vaccine because of the side effects?
All of the vaccines are actually pretty safe, And if there's one number, let's really all of them are less than 1% in terms of having serious bad effects, serious adverse effects, Of course, we have to differentiate yung adverse effects from reactogenicity symptoms. We mentioned training. when the soldiers in our body, our immune system starts training, diba? Many times, we might feel them starting to train, no? Siyempre, gumagalaw yan. Ang mga sundalo, pag nagsisimula mag-training, gumagalaw. And therefore, there are reactogenicity symptoms which are expected symptoms. Yung mga talagang alam natin na talagang pwede talagang mangyari, pero hindi masama, no? And what are these? Fever, pain, no? Weakness, no? So sometimes a little bit of chills, no? So body aches, no? These are just, symptoms that are telling us, our immune system, it's now working, it's now training for the battle later on.
No COVID-19 vaccine offers perfect protection, but they're effective in preventing severe COVID and even death. When we return, we'll talk more about how antibodies work. Stay with us here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Narito na ang pag-asa. Narito na ang bakuna. Pag nagpabakuna at patuloy pa ring nagmask, hugas at iwas, lalong maiingatan ang sarili at ang kapwa para unti-unti nating mabalikan ang buhay na kinasasabikan. Sa pagpapabakuna, ingat-angat tayong lahat. Ingat-angat, bakuna lahat. A message from PMA, PSMID, and kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Malaki ang papel ng mga sibilyan sa pagsugpo ng terorismo. Isa na dito ay ang pagsasabuhay ng tinatawag na culture of security.
Ano nga ba ang culture of security?
May nakita?
Dapat
Magsalita.
Sa culture of security, tandaan natin ang 4 na bagay: volunteer, report, remind, at participate.
Makipag-ugnayan sa Task Force Davao, idaya lang 0917-131-4333, 0999-227-1111 at 082-224-0911.
The COVID-19 vaccines are a safe and effective way to protect against the virus. They work by allowing our immune system to produce antibodies to fight future infections. And while they each use different technologies to do this, they aim to achieve the same goal, which is basically to end the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk. We're your partner in healthcare. Is antibodies the be-all and end-all when it comes to fighting COVID-19? Or are there other factors in someone's immune system that can contribute to the fight?
A lot of people are hearing about antibodies, no? And they tend to, and you might have seen studies where they say, oh, the antibodies have gone down in this vaccine, it's not as effective. No, not necessarily. Your immune system is smart in that it also has a lot of other factors, a lot of other players. Antibodies, I like to call them like your missiles or your drones, because they can do things from afar. No, they don't. They're created by what's called your plasma cells, and then they'll fire it, and then if it finds the enemy, it will literally search and destroy. Now that's the idea of how antibodies work. But there are other methods, and even if you like your military analogies, hindi lang nananalo yung gyera sa mga drone lang. So you also have ground troops, and we call these T cells, no? There are very different types of T cells, but some of them are designed to be able to know the enemy, which is also something that your immune system can do thanks to the vaccines.
What would a practical way to advise our viewers when it comes to trusting the vaccine was effective when they were given to them?
I would say you would know a vaccine is effective if, one, you don't get sick. And number two, if you do get sick, that it's not that severe. You don't end up having to go to the hospital. These vaccines are very sophisticated. They're manufactured in very stringent setups that it's not hindi yan basta-basta. So they have to pass through a lot of safety net. And that's the reason why it takes quite a while to have them approved, no? But as far as all of the vaccines that have been approved for use for emergency use authorization, they have met all of these requirements. So I would say that people would really have to trust in our health agencies and also the WHO and the CDC for their guidance with regard to the safety and efficacy of these vaccines.
If you are fully vaccinated and you do get COVID-19, your symptoms would be shortened or you may not even feel symptoms at all. That's why a lot of people now think that those who are fully vaccinated and get infected, are they still as contagious? Are they still as infectious as someone who has not been vaccinated? Dr. Adrian, can you answer that one?
If you get vaccinated, don't think that you're already invulnerable, no? That you won't be hit by COVID already. At this time, especially with the Delta variant that is more infectious than the original virus, we still need to maintain our masks, our face shields, no, our hand hygiene, everything. No? So we can still get coronavirus, and therefore, when we get symptoms, no, we can't say that this is not COVID. Vacunado na ako eh. We should still, suspect and check, and because if we don't, we might, transmit. If in fact we got COVID, we can still transmit it to our family members, our office mates.
If someone is fully vaccinated, do we already know the length of time that these antibodies for COVID-19 are effective or remain in the body? What I'm trying to drive at is the need for boosters, which a lot of people are talking about. Could you answer this one, Dr. Adrian?
You have to remember that the vaccines have been there for around 1.5 years or around a year. So this is the data that we have, that the vaccines, we've known them, and we are continuing to collect data for around a year or so. Now, there are studies that have shown that the antibody levels have indeed been going down in some vaccines for around 6 months, 4 months in some. But like was mentioned earlier, it doesn't mean that your antibody levels, just because they are going down, means that the vaccine is totally losing its efficacy. In fact, the studies that have been coming out show that despite the Delta variant, despite the slight waning, yung pagbagsak ng kaunti ng antibody levels, magaling pa rin yung mga vaccine from preventing severe and critical illness.
My question is herd immunity still relevant? It's still relevant today. Is that still something that we are looking to achieve? And if it still is, initially it was 70%, is that still the number we need to achieve until now, Dr. Ed?
In the context of protecting those people who cannot get the vaccine right now. So we're talking about younger populations where the studies that are looking about the safety profile and the dosage needed is still ongoing. And also those people who have reduced immunity, either because they have a condition that, they cannot receive vaccines because their body can't produce the antibodies. So, or cancer patients. So there are populations that will need herd immunity in order to be protected. That's why it's still relevant.
The Delta variant is the most contagious and transmissible variant to date, but there are other new variants such as the Mu variant, which is just around the corner. So, can additional boosters help protect us from these new variants? We'll tell you more after a short break. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health, so stay with us on CNN Philippines.
Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
Father Pedro de Valderrama, the chaplain of the Spanish fleet, celebrated the first Holy Mass in our islands. It was an Easter Sunday, in gratitude to the risen Lord for their safe journey.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Malaki ang papel ng mga sibilyan sa pagsugpo ng terorismo. Isa na dito ay ang pagsasabuhay ng tinatawag na culture of security.
Ano nga ba ang culture of security?
May nakita?
Dapat
magsalita.
Sa culture of security, tandaan natin ang 4 na bagay: volunteer, report, remind, at participate.
Makipag-ugnayan sa Task Force Davao, idaya lang 0917-131-4333, 0999-227-1111 at 082-224-0911.
Today, the Delta variant is the dominant strain in the Philippines, and it is also now affecting many parts of the world. But as with many viruses, we still need to keep our guards up because we keep seeing new variants come into play. So how about boosters for these new ones? I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk, where your health comes first. Is the vaccine that was given to us designed around the original variant of COVID-19? Are those still going to be effective with new variants down the road?
Right now, we're seeing that with the Delta variant, the original, of course, the vaccines that we have now were designed to prevent the original SARS-CoV-2. We're seeing that they're still very good at preventing severe and critical disease. However, we have to go back to the original. The original SARS-CoV-2 is like a robber, parang magnanakaw. So it just wants to rob houses. The original SARS-CoV was actually very good at robbing 3 houses. So usually one person usually infects 3 people. But because of the Delta, kumbaga parang naging mas magaling yung magnanakaw. Instead of 3, it can now rob 6 houses. So as time goes on, ganun ang viruses and but some viruses are changed faster than others. Fortunately, sa SARS-CoV, hindi masyado, not as fast as others, pero not as slow as others din.
We're seeing now the Delta variant, which is a variant of concern. And now there's this new variant, which was initially seen last January, which was a virus of interest. Is this another Delta just waiting to happen or something even worse?
As with any variant, this is a result of mutation. And, the reason why you call it a variant of interest is because the mutations in its genome occur in areas that have clinical consequences. Like, for example, in the Delta variant, the reason why it is a variant of concern is because it has a mutation in one of its areas, which makes it very good at entering the cells. And you also have, for example, I'm not sure if people remember, but the Beta variant, we used to call that the South African variant. That one has a mutation in its spike protein, which is that's the protein that connects to our cells, in order to infect. And it's also the portion that our antibodies attached to. So because it mutated in that area, the antibodies might not latch as well. Yun ang sinasabi ni Dr. Gwen Salido na nag-iba yung itsura. So it's like your soldiers, sinabi, yung tao may bigote. And then nawala yung bigote ng tao. So iisipin, siya pa rin ba? Things like that, right?
Would boosters be a good argument for this or the need to take a booster shot? A good argument for this?
The basis of whether or not you'd consider a booster is more on the signal. When you look at the effectiveness, and that's why we follow up the populations who have been vaccinated to see whether or not there seems to be a decrease in the effectiveness. For example, some people have brought it to my attention because they're wondering, like the CDC is already recommending booster shots in certain populations. And this is what we mean, because they're seeing the signals that the effectiveness of the vaccine is starting to decrease in those particular populations. So we're talking about people who have immune deficiency issues or taking medications that can interfere. So dun pa lang, they're seeing that the signal is dropping. But as far as the regular me and you, the normal population is concerned, it looks like the vaccines are still effective. So until they see those early signs, those early signals that the effectiveness is starting to wane, tsaka na lang natin pag-iisipan na baka we need a booster. But for now, it appears to be it's still working.
When we say booster, are we referring to the same brand of vaccine that was initially taken, or are we talking about a different brand, changing to a different type of vaccine as a booster?
Traditionally, of course, it would be the same one, but understandably, because of the logistics involved and the worldwide demand, mixing became a question that was raised. Right now, there are safety studies that show that there does not seem to be harm mixing, meaning you're not expecting any adverse events or anything bad happening. But the efficacy of mixing is the one that's still being looked into.
We hope we're able to answer your many questions about COVID-19 vaccines. We'd like to thank our guest, Clinical Genomics Lab Head, Dr. Mark Edsel Ayes, and Infectious Disease Specialist, Dr. Adrian Buensalido. Maraming salamat sa inyong expertise at tulong. Get vaccinated, don't hesitate, don't be afraid. The COVID-19 vaccines are safe and they have been thoroughly tested. And these vaccines will save lives. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and we'll see you again next time. Stay safe, everyone.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda, DXKT Davao, member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.